In 2002, GhostShip came out, and just like the title suggests, it's about a ship. And it does indeed have ghosts. Lots of scary ghosts. The story centres on a salvage crew whom are informed of a deserted ship in the middle of the sea. So they head out to the ship to claim any valuable possessions on board, and when they find the ship, they discover it's the Antonia Graza, a luxury ship that went missing all the way back in 1962. Upon boarding, they find a heap of gold, but that's not the only thing they find, as the ship also seems to contain evil forces from beyond the grave, who terrorise the crew and put their lives in danger. In this fun, supernatural horror movie, which didn't exactly wow people at the time of its release, but has built up more of a fan appreciation in modern years. When it comes to Ghost Ship, I feel like the passengers at the start of the movie. Split in half. Because I can't decide if I really like it or don't really like it. I mean, yeah, it's really silly, but it's also lots of fun. So 10 things, let's do this, and no dangling any cake in front of me while I do this. Let's check it out. Number 10. Ghost Ship started off as a psychological thriller. Ghost Ship was the brainchild of American screenwriter Mark Hanlon, and despite coming out in 2002, he wrote the script all the way back in 1996. But it was drastically different back then, as it wasn't so much a horror movie, but more of a psychological thriller, without any of the graphic gore that would go on to be seen in the final film. The original script went under the title of Chimera, and was about 4 members of a salvage crew finding themselves stranded on a ghost ship called the Chimera, where over the course of a night, each member is driven insane, with the 4 members ending up killing each other in order to keep the gold that they find on the ship. Only in the original script, it's not straight up paranormal activity, but it's more ambiguous as to what is making the crew members so paranoid and psychotic, with it being left open that it could be a paranormal entity causing their behaviour, but it could also be panic or even cabin fever. So basically, The Shining on a boat. Until The Triangle came out, which pretty much was The Shining on a boat. Number 9. The Tales from the Crypt team bought the script. Although filmmaker Robert Zemeckis may forever be known for directing 80s classics like Back to the Future and Who Framed Roger Rabbit, in the 90s he took a dark turn from playful fantasies to twisted horrors. In 1989, he and Die Hard and Predator producer Joel Silver co-produced the popular Tales from the Crypt series, which ran until 1996. However, by the last season of Tales from the Crypt, it was felt that the show was going a little stale, so it was decided to make Tales from the Crypt movies, which was to be an anthology film series which started in 1995 with Demon Knight. However, Zemeckis decided to make the next movie that was intended to be a Tales from the Crypt movie its own thing, which was The Frighteners, which he executively produced. After this, both Zemeckis and Silver co-founded the production label of Dark Castle Entertainment, which is a division of Joel Silver's Silver Production Company, where Silver and Zemeckis would produce 2 horror remakes with their new Dark Castle logo, those being the House on Haunted Hill remake in 1999 and the 13 Ghosts remake in 2001. Both movies presented as supernatural spectacles with plenty of special effects and plenty of gore. And so the producers got their hands on the Chimera script, which of course would become Ghost Ship, and so they purchased it, not only to be the 3rd movie released under Dark Castle, but also the first original movie the company was producing, as the company was originally intended to remake old horror movie classics. Warner Brothers came on board to distribute the movie, and former Industrial Light and Magic employee and 13 Ghost director, Steve Beck was hired as director. So it seemed the Chimera was set to set sail. However, a devastating real-life disaster caused drastic changes to be made to the script. Number 8. 9/11 led to rewrites. Now, supposedly when the cast signed up to star in Ghost Ship, they did so under the original script, which as mentioned was more of a psychological thriller. A movie that asks, are these people possessed by evil spirits, or is this just a dark exploration into the disturbing nature of humanity? However, according to the director Steve Beck, during the movie's early production, the 2001 September attacks happened, which led to Joel Silver wanting rewrites, as after the attacks, he didn't want to make a movie about the exploration of the dark and corrupt and violent side of humanity, but wanted it to be straight up good versus evil. I guess the idea was that after the attacks, audiences needed entertaining and uplifting, rather than questioning atrocities that they may or may not be capable of. John Pogg, who had previously written the teen thriller The Skulls, as well as executively produced The Fast and the Furious, came on board to make rewrites, where Chimera became Ghost Ship, and the script more resembled the final film that we got. In which there is no ambiguity, as well as no questioning if this is just people at their worst. Nope, this is undoubtedly, no questions asked, balls to the wall, evil ghosts. And that's all there is to it. It's evil ghosts. Number 7, based on a real-life ship. Now, I don't mean to panic anyone when I say that it's based on a real ship. I don't mean there's an evil ghost ship sailing the seas out there, which takes people to hell. However, the MS Antonia Grazia ship in Ghost Ship was designed after the SS Andrea Doria, which was an Italian sea liner which first set sail in 1951. The luxury liner was known to be the fastest, largest, and safest ship of its time, and was a beacon of pride for Italy after difficulties the country was going through after World War II. However, Andrea Doria's days of sailing were over in 1956, when it capsized and sank after colliding with another ocean liner called Stockholm. Most of the passengers and crew survived, but 46 passengers still lost their lives. So I guess it's fitting that a real-life luxury ship with an eerie fate would be the basis for the MS Antonia Grazia in Ghost Ship. However, some have claimed that the ship in Ghost Ship bears more of a resemblance to fellow Italian ocean liner, the Leonardo da Vinci, which first set sail in 1960, putting its time period closer to the fictional Antonia Grazia. And sadly, the Leonardo da Vinci also had a grisly fate, after she caught fire and capsized in 1980, and eventually scrapped in 1982. So which ship do you think the Antonia Grazia resembles the most? The Andrea Doria or the Leonardo da Vinci? Number 6. A lead actor left to star in another horror movie. Ghost Ship actually has a really impressive cast, including an itty-bitty pint-sized Emily Browning, Carl Urban, Isaiah Washington, Juliana Margulies, and Ron Eldard, in a cast led by Gabriel Byrne as Captain Sean Murphy, with Byrne being no stranger to supernatural horror movies, having previously starred in Stigmata and End of Days. However, according to IMDb, he wasn't the original choice for the part. That was in fact Scottish actor Brian Cox, who was set to star but ultimately ended up backing out in order to star in fellow supernatural horror movie, the US Ring remake instead. So he was out and Gabriel was in. That's not the only odd quirk with the casting either. In Ghost Ship, Italian actress Francesca Radondini was cast as the ship's sinister, ghostly, seductive singer. Well, in real life she couldn't speak English, so a translator was brought on board to help give her the director's commands. And this is also why she has very few lines in the movie. Number 5. Filming location. Ghost Ship was filmed on location right here in Australia, namely the Gold Coast in Queensland. That's why there's several Australian actors turning up throughout the movie, like the as mentioned Emily Browning and Alex Dimitriadis. In fact, the first time I saw Ghost Ship, I thought to myself, oh wow, there's the Heartbreak High guy. Most of Ghost Ship was actually filmed on sets and sound stages at Village Roadshow Studios, a studio which had previously been used to film movies such as Street Fighter and The Phantom. And it is still a popular studio now, with other movie productions being filmed at the studios, including Aquaman, Thor Ragnarok, and Godzilla vs. Kong, with the studio being a great contributor to Australia's efforts in cinema. However, it wasn't all sunshine and Tim Tams for the cast and crew of Ghost Ship, as while filming the scenes in the tugboat, a feeding frenzy had occurred with the local sharks, in which the cast and crew were surrounded by what is said to be 800 to 1,000 sharks. Yikes. That must have been terrifying. But thankfully there were no mishaps, and none of the cast and crew became a shark Happy Meal. Well, isn't that just typical? You go to work expecting to be scared of ghosts, but instead you're actually terrorized by Jaws. In this case, Jawses. Yeah! Number 4. Creating the ship. Given how most of Ghost Ship is set on a ship, it would make sense for the movie to be filmed on a real ship. And that was the original intention, to find a ship that resembles the fictional MS Antonia Graza, and to film most of the movie on said ship. The crew did visit several potential ships, but according to director Steve Beck, every time they would inspect a ship, they were always put off with how on earth were they going to get the dolly track down certain corridors and infrastructures of the ships. And in many cases, in order to get required shots, walls would have to be knocked down. So basically, to film on a real ship would have been too restrictive. But thankfully, there was a dog named Scooby-Doo to the rescue, as the Scooby-Doo movie had just previously been filmed at the Village Roadshow Studios for Warner Brothers, which used the services of Australian special effects company Photon VFX. So instead of using a real ship for filming, the effects company were able to create a ship via CGI and miniature models, as well as other special effect techniques, as well as providing all the other effects for Ghost Ship. In fact, Photon VFX's contract with the Ghost Ship production was the biggest contract a special effects company ever had in Australia at that time. Photon VFX even made a full-scale replica of the Antonia Graza and filmed some establishing shots at sea on location at Newstead, Queensland, which drew an interest and fascination from locals and tourists. Number 3. Setting the mood. Ghost Ship has a unique opening, as it doesn't start off as your average early 2000s slasher horror movie, but instead has a classical jazzy opening, which may make you feel like you're watching a movie from long ago. This intro was designed to resemble classic MGM and Warner Brothers movies from the early 60s, the time period where this scene is set. To add extra authenticity, colour palettes were put over the picture, in order to get an authentic look of that time period, and to add to the effect, the movie started off with an old grainy Warner Brothers logo. It's a clever way to suddenly throw the audience off guard when things then very quickly go horrific and gruesome. In fact, the first time I saw Ghost Ship, I was so invested in this 1960s glamour atmosphere, the way the scene ended up really punched me in the guts and threw me off guard. In addition to that, the music of Ghost Ship was composed by John Frizzell, whom had previously scored Alien Resurrection and Dante's Peak, and has more recently scored several Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies. And supposedly, according to IMDb, before director Steve Beck was hired, producer Joel Silver asked Renny Harlin to direct Ghost Ship. Probably because a few years prior, Harlin had directed fellow sea horror movie Deep Blue Sea, and Harlin had already directed several movies for Silver, including Die Hard 2 and The Adventures of Ford Fairlane, but Harlin declined the offer, and this caused Silver to never work with the director again. But I say supposedly as that piece of information was on IMDb, a website that anyone can go to and write anything, and I couldn't find any resources to back that claim up. But if it's true, then Harlin probably didn't want to direct another sea-based movie, as apparently Deep Blue Sea was a very tough shoot. Number 2. Poster similarities. Now we get to the poster of Ghost Ship, where it creates a very striking image of the front of an ocean liner forming into a human skull. It's very creepy, and bound to cause bedwetting for anyone who has a fear of skulls and boats. Although when I first saw this poster, the title Ghost Ship completely slipped past my radar, probably because it's at the very bottom. I actually thought the movie was called Sea Evil, as on the poster the movie's tagline is more visible and more striking than the actual title of the movie itself. So I was like, okay, fair enough, Sea Evil. Regardless, this amazing visual isn't entirely unique, as it looks strikingly similar to the movie poster for the movie Death Ship, which came out in 1980, which, like Ghost Ship, features the front of a ship forming a creepy skull face. In fact, there are a lot of similarities between the two movies. Death Ship is also about characters finding a lost ghost ship, but this one was a German warship from World War II, which is also inhabited by evil spirits. It also stars Richard Crenna from the Rambo movies, and in order to get through this nightmare, he's going to need a good supply of body bags. Interestingly, like GhostShip, DeathShip also starts with a party taking place on a cruise liner, only this time the passengers are partaking in a Halloween costume disco. Okay. As you do, I guess. The title Ghost Ship isn't entirely original either, as there was a 1952 movie which was also called Ghost Ship, which of course is about spirits on board an old ship. However, the 2002 Ghost Ship is not a remake. And coincidentally, 1 year before Ghost Ship came out, there was a TV movie called Triangle, not to be confused with the 2010 movie Triangle that I mentioned before. The movie starred Luke Perry, where once again characters discover a lost ship at sea, where sinister supernatural forces are at play. So, what can we learn about these movies? Well, if you find an old ship in the middle of the sea, don't go near it! Even if you're stranded, don't go there! It's not worth it. I'm telling you now, it is full of ghosts who will mess your shit up. Number 1. The ship sank. Ghost Ship opened up at the number 3 spot in the box office upon its release in October 2002. At the time of its release, Jackass the movie was unstoppable in the box office and beating all other movies. Ghost Ship got pretty bad reviews from critics at the time, who felt the movie had a bored sense of been there, done that. Basically, some complained that Ghost Ship felt tired and full of the usual scares that we were all accustomed to. It was also felt that the characters were poorly developed and written. Roger Ebert gave something of a more positive review, stating Ghost Ship is better than you expect, but not as good as you hope. So basically a backhander wrapped up in a compliment. And so Ghost Ship only made just over $68 million on a $20 million budget, making its financial takings moderate, and in no way a financial disaster. But Ghost Ship's negative backlash didn't end there, as Ghost Ship was nominated for Worst Movie by the Fangoria Chainsaw Awards. And its director Steve Beck wouldn't direct another motion picture after directing Ghost Ship, which I think is a shame, as the movie is competently shot. Now, the movie may have issues, but its directing is not one of them. However, later down the track, Ghost Ship would get more appreciation, where it has finally built a cult following with many fans, some of whom claim that Ghost Ship is one of the best horror movies to come out of that decade. Basically, Ghost Ship is just a fun, gory B-movie. A slasher movie involving ghosts on a ship, and you get exactly what you expect. Some fun shrieks and scares with some awkward early 2000s special effects. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. If you want a fun, simple, easy to digest horror movie, then you can do a lot worse than watching Ghost Ship. It's not trying to break waves or be a masterpiece, but it is still a good time. So yeah, if you want a spooky ghost story full of guts and gore, then check out Ghost Ship. It's a popcorn movie, where you leave your brain at the door and just go along with it. Anyway, that about wraps everything up, so I'm Minty. And this movie is some serious shit. Yeah, I know, I'm sorry, that was lame. See ya!